I've had millions of basketball-related conversations with David Falk. No one should be surprised that David Falk is going out there with the MJ flag, because if you think that, stop. Just get out of the sports talking about business and go to something else. Now, I hate the conversation because it requires you to say something negative about someone who's truly great and all-time great to make your point. And that's the most tiresome thing about the GOAT conversation. But let me just say this. I'm not gonna sit here and say that LeBron James has to be considered better than Magic Johnson. That's garbage. I'm not gonna say LeBron James has to be considered better than Bill Russell. That's garbage. I'm not gonna say LeBron James has to be considered better than Kobe Bryant. That's garbage. LeBron James is one of the greatest players of all time in all team sports. I'm sorry, if that's not good enough, turn the page, get over yourself. So in other words, I'm going to proclaim and support and wave the LeBron James flag for his greatness, but if I say he's less than number 2, that's not good enough for you, to hell with you. And I'm not saying that in support of David Falk. I'm saying that as somebody who has watched basketball and lived with basketball my whole life. I gotta say that LeBron James is better than Kobe Bryant? What? Put me in a grave first.
The mainstream sports media has spent years framing the GOAT debate as a two-man race. Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. For over a decade, highlight reels, dramatic comparisons, and endless promotional campaigns have drilled this narrative into fans' minds. Turn on any sports show, scroll through any debate clip, and you'll see the same formula: Jordan's 6-for-6 perfection against LeBron's longevity and counting stats. It's a script the media refuses to deviate from because it keeps fans divided, keeps ratings alive, and keeps the conversation burning. But according to respected voices who have lived the game from courtside for decades, this framing is not just oversimplified, it's flat-out misleading. Reducing the history of basketball greatness to only 2 names erases the contributions of legends who revolutionized the sport, dominated eras, and inspired entire generations. And one of the loudest voices to call this out is Michael Wilbon. Wilbon, a Hall of Fame journalist and longtime NBA insider, didn't just grow up around the game, he's covered it for over 40 years. He's watched Magic Johnson orchestrate Showtime in the 1982nd. He's seen Bill Russell anchor the greatest dynasty the NBA has ever known. He witnessed Kobe Bryant rise as the heir to Jordan's throne. So when Wilbon speaks on greatness, he's not repeating a media narrative. He's drawing from lived experience, decades of conversations with players, coaches, and legends. On a recent episode of Get Up, Wilbon responded to the firestorm created by David Falk, Michael Jordan's longtime agent, who boldly claimed Jordan would have won 15 championships if he had teamed up with superstars the way LeBron James did. While Falk's statement turned heads, Wilbon took things even further. He didn't just defend Jordan, he pushed back against the very assumption that LeBron James is automatically locked in as the second greatest player of all time. Wilbon's words cut like a knife. I'm not going to sit here and say LeBron James has to be considered better than Magic Johnson. That's garbage. I'm not going to say LeBron James has to be considered better than Bill Russell. That's garbage. I'm not going to say LeBron James has to be considered better than Kobe Bryant. That's also garbage. With that statement, Wilbon shattered the illusion the media has been selling for years that the GOAT conversation begins with Jordan and ends with LeBron. His point was simple yet powerful. There is no automatic number 2. Legends like Magic, Russell, and Kobe are not side characters in LeBron's story. They are basketball giants whose legacies demand respect. To ignore them in order to fit a 2-man storyline is not basketball analysis. It's narrative manipulation. Wilbon's challenge to the automatic 2 narrative. Wilbon's declaration wasn't just a passing comment, it was a direct challenge to the lazy thinking that dominates today's GOAT debates. By refusing to accept LeBron James as the automatic number 2, Wilbon was exposing how fragile the modern conversation around greatness has become. In today's sports media, it's almost considered blasphemy to suggest that Magic Johnson, Bill Russell, or Kobe Bryant could hold that spot. The narrative has been packaged so tightly that fans treat Jordan at 1, LeBron at 2 as if it's written in stone. Wilbon shattered that illusion in a matter of seconds. What he reminded everyone is that greatness in basketball isn't just about piling up stats or staying relevant for 20 years. Magic Johnson revolutionized how the game is played. He turned the floor into his personal chessboard, and made Showtime Lakers a global spectacle. Bill Russell wasn't just a player, he was the embodiment of winning. A man who lifted 11 championships in 13 years while anchoring the most dominant dynasty the league has ever seen. And Kobe Bryant, Jordan's closest successor in skill, mentality, and killer instinct, was more than just a scorer. He was a standard for a generation, a relentless force who demanded respect every night. By placing these names back into the conversation, Wilbon wasn't disrespecting LeBron. On the contrary, he was restoring balance to a debate that has become skewed by marketing, media hype, and revisionist history. He was reminding us that basketball has always been a story of multiple legends, not a one-dimensional rivalry constructed for television ratings. To pretend otherwise, as Wilbon said bluntly, is garbage. And perhaps the most powerful part of his statement came when he said, "I've got to say that LeBron James is better than Kobe Bryant. What put me in a grave first?" That line wasn't just hyperbole, it was conviction. It was the perspective of someone who's seen Kobe up close, who's spoken to players who went to war against him, who knows firsthand how much respect Kobe commanded in locker rooms across the league. For Wilbon, dismissing Kobe just to elevate LeBron isn't analysis, it's betrayal of the truth. Michael Wilbon pushes back. Michael Wilbon, Hall of Fame journalist and lifelong NBA insider, is not known for chasing hot takes. He's covered the league for over 4 decades, talked to legends face to face, and sat courtside through eras of greatness. So when he pushes back against a narrative, it carries weight. On a recent episode of Get Up, Wilbon reacted to the firestorm started by David Falk, Michael Jordan's longtime agent, who claimed Jordan would have won 15 championships if he had teamed up with superstars the way LeBron did. That statement alone turned heads, but Wilbon took it further. He challenged the very assumption that LeBron James must automatically be locked in as the second greatest player of all time. His words were sharp, and they cut through the noise. "I'm not going to sit here and say, LeBron James has to be considered better than Magic Johnson, that's garbage. I'm not going to say LeBron James has to be considered better than Bill Russell, that's garbage. I'm not going to say LeBron James has to be considered better than Kobe Bryant. That's also garbage." In other words, Wilbon wasn't tearing down LeBron's greatness, he was exposing the false logic behind the debate itself. The media presents the GOAT conversation as though it's Jordan at the top, LeBron right behind him, and then everyone else in the distance, but that's not how real basketball minds see it. To people who actually lived through Magic's Showtime Lakers, Russell's dynasty in Boston, or Kobe's era of dominance, the idea of LeBron being automatically number 2 isn't just flawed, it's insulting to history. Wilbon's statement was more than a hot take. It was a reminder. Greatness in basketball cannot be reduced to a ranking handed down by highlight reels and marketing campaigns. Context matters. Legacy matters, winning matters, and the players who defined generations, Magic, Russell, Bird, Kobe, cannot simply be pushed aside to maintain a two-man narrative that sells television segments, the legends who refuse to be erased. The mainstream media wants you to believe the GOAT debate begins with Michael Jordan and ends with LeBron James, but history laughs at such simplicity. Legends don't vanish just because the narrative machine wants a two-man race. They stand, they demand to be remembered, and they refuse to be erased. Michael Wilbon was right. The table of greatness has more than 2 chairs, and anyone who pretends otherwise is rewriting basketball history. Bill Russell, the ultimate winner. If greatness is about winning, then Bill Russell's name should silence every debate before it starts. 11 championships in 13 years. That's not dominance, that's an empire. And it wasn't simply the hardware. It was how he won. He anchored Boston's defense, invented modern rim protection, and turned transition play into a weapon decades before the term defensive anchor even existed. And when faced with Wilt Chamberlain, the most unstoppable offensive force of his generation, Russell didn't back down. He outsmarted, outworked, and outlasted him. He was the antidote to pure force, discipline, strategy, and relentless will. But Russell's greatness went beyond basketball. In an America divided by racism, he carried himself with dignity, courage, and unshakable conviction. He wasn't chasing highlight reels, he was chasing victory, and he caught it more than anyone else ever has. To casually place LeBron above Russell without hesitation is to ignore the very foundation of winning culture itself. Magic Johnson, the revolutionary. If Russell built the foundation, Magic Johnson turned basketball into a spectacle the world couldn't ignore. At 6'9", a point guard in a center's body, Magic redefined what the position could be. He ran the floor like a conductor, every pass a note in the symphony called showtime. 5 championships in 9 finals appearances achieved while battling Bird's Celtics, Dr. J's Sixers, and Isaiah's Pistons. And when the lights burned brightest, Magic rose higher. In the 1980 finals, with Kareem sidelined, a rookie Magic slid into the center position and dropped 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists to clinch the championship. That wasn't luck. It was legend in real time. Magic didn't just win, he changed basketball itself. He proved that size and versatility could coexist with vision and creativity, opening the door for every oversized playmaker who came after him. To claim LeBron must surpass Magic in the hierarchy is to forget the man who reinvented what greatness looked like. Larry Bird, the cold-blooded assassin. And if Magic was the heartbeat of Showtime, Larry Bird was its eternal rival. The man who stared down the brightest lights and never blinked. 3 NBA titles, 3 straight MVPs, something even LeBron never achieved, and the leader of a Celtics dynasty that clawed for every inch of glory. Bird didn't need overwhelming athleticism. He beat you with craft, toughness, and the sharpest competitive edge the league has ever seen. He once told his opponents before a 3-point contest they were playing for second place. Then he proved it, shooting in warm-ups with his jacket still on, and walked away with the trophy. He dropped 60 points on the Hawks while their bench collapsed in laughter at his shot-making. He delivered triple-doubles in the playoffs, while his body betrayed him with chronic back pain. And through it all, Bird embodied one truth. He didn't just want to beat you, he wanted to bury you. Magic and Bird's rivalry didn't just save the NBA, it elevated it to an art form. To slide LeBron past Bird without debate is to ignore the decade-long fire that defined an era and resurrected the league itself. Kobe Bryant, the relentless heir. And then came Kobe Bryant, the heir to Jordan's throne. But more than just a mirror image, 5 championships, 2 finals MVPs, a league MVP, and the kind of scoring explosions that felt otherworldly. Kobe's greatness wasn't born in comfort, it was forged in obsession. The 81-point masterpiece, the free throws on a torn Achilles, the back-to-back titles in 2009 and 2010, silencing critics who said he couldn't win without Shaq. Kobe stayed with one franchise for 20 years, weathering storms, reinventing himself, and clawing his way back to the mountaintop. But what truly set Kobe apart was respect, not from media narratives but from peers. Ask Kevin Durant, Dwyane Wade, or Kyrie Irving who inspired them most. Time and again, the answer is Kobe. Respect in the NBA fraternity is not given, it's earned. And Kobe earned it with sweat, scars, and an iron will. To brush him aside for LeBron without debate isn't just lazy, it insults the competitive spirit that defines basketball. Why this matters? Wilbon wasn't bashing LeBron. He was defending the soul of basketball history. Greatness is layered, complex, and cannot be flattened into a 2-man poster. Russell's rings, Magic's vision, Bird's fire, Kobe's obsession, each represents a pillar of the game. Ignore them, and the GOAT conversation becomes nothing more than marketing spin. So the next time someone tells you the debate is only Jordan versus LeBron, remember this: legends don't fade because a new narrative takes over. They live on, demanding their seat at the table, and until we honor them, the conversation isn't about greatness, it's about convenience. The myth of the 2-man race. If you turn on ESPN today, you'd think the entire history of basketball can be boiled down to 2 men, Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Every highlight, every debate, every headline, always the same question: is LeBron better than MJ? But here's the uncomfortable truth. Framing the GOAT conversation this way doesn't honor basketball, it cheapens it. It turns a rich, layered history into a simplistic soap opera. Michael Jordan, the gold standard. Let's be clear. Jordan is the measuring stick. 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs. A flawless record when everything was on the line. Beyond the rings, he brought a level of cultural dominance that no athlete before or maybe since has matched. Jordan wasn't just a player. He was a phenomenon. The shoes, the commercials, the aura of invincibility. He made basketball global. But here's the thing. Even Jordan's greatness didn't exist in a vacuum. He had to climb over giants to get there. The Pistons' bad boys, the Celtics' dynasty remnants, the Lakers of Magic and Kareem. Jordan's legend shines brighter precisely because of the titans he had to conquer. Strip those rivals away, and even MJ's story becomes smaller. LeBron James, the endless odyssey. Then comes LeBron, the chosen one from Akron. 2 decades of sustained dominance, 4 championships across 3 franchises. Scoring records shattered. All-time longevity unprecedented. If Jordan is the gold standard, LeBron is the Iron Man, the player who never stops, never fades, and keeps rewriting the record books, even in his late 30s. But the problem with the LeBron narrative is how it gets weaponized. Every stat, every milestone, every playoff run becomes ammunition in a war to prove he's better than Jordan. And in the process, the respect for others, Russell, Magic, Bird, Kobe, gets erased. It's not that LeBron isn't great. It's that his greatness is often packaged as if the NBA before him was just the prelude to his arrival. The real danger of the two-man myth. The obsession with Jordan versus Webb. LeBron creates a dangerous myth. That greatness is linear. That the NBA is a ladder with only one man standing at the top. But history doesn't work that way. Greatness isn't a ladder, it's a tapestry. Different eras, different challenges, different definitions of what it means to dominate. Russell's ironclad winning, Magic's innovation, Bird's ruthlessness, Kobe's obsession, Jordan's killer instinct, LeBron's longevity. They aren't chapters in the same book, they're volumes in a library. To pretend it all boils down to 2 names is like saying Shakespeare and Hemingway are the only authors who matter. It's not just wrong, it's disrespectful. The truth we keep ignoring. The truth is, the GOAT conversation has been hijacked by marketing, by networks chasing ratings, by brands chasing clicks, by fans who want a clean, simple answer to a question that was never meant to be simple. That's why Wilbon's words cut so deep. He wasn't dismissing LeBron. He was defending the complexity of history itself. Because when you flatten everything into Jordan versus LeBron, you lose the richness of the game. You forget Russell's empire. You forget Magic's revolution. You forget Bird's fire. You forget Kobe's obsession. And one day, if we're not careful, you'll forget LeBron too, reduced to just another rival in a narrative that never ends. Reclaiming the meaning of greatness. Michael Wilbon's pushback wasn't just about protecting old heroes. It was about protecting the very soul of the game. Because when you strip history down to Jordan versus LeBron, you don't just lose nuance, you lose truth. And when truth dies, greatness becomes nothing more than a marketing slogan. The forgotten currency of greatness. Greatness was never about algorithms or social media trends. It wasn't about Twitter debates or viral clips. Greatness was forged in rivalries that defined generations. It was Russell staring down Wilt. It was Magic and Bird trading blows on basketball's biggest stage. It was Kobe rewriting his own story after the world doubted him. It was Jordan transforming failure into dominance. It was LeBron carrying impossible weight on his shoulders year after year. That's the real currency of greatness. Competition, context, and conquest. Not comparison stripped of history. The danger of erasure. The danger of erasing legends is that the next generation won't know what was truly at stake. They'll believe the game started with LeBron or ended with Jordan. They'll see highlights without understanding the blood and sacrifice underneath. They'll forget that for every chosen one, there were warriors who forced them to prove it. If we let that happen, then basketball isn't a sport anymore, it's just content. And greatness, the thing that once made the NBA sacred, will be reduced to an endless argument with no winners. Why Wilbon's words matter. That's why Wilbon's words struck a nerve. He wasn't anti-LeBron, and he wasn't trying to stir controversy. He was telling us, remember the fullness of the game. Remember that greatness isn't a one-way street from Jordan to LeBron. It's a wide, crowded hall lined with giants who built the foundation brick by brick, because the moment we forget that, we betray the very thing that makes this sport worth debating, worth celebrating, worth loving. The final truth. The GOAT debate will never die, and maybe it shouldn't, but it must evolve. It must stop pretending greatness is a two-man cage match and start honoring the mosaic of legends who gave us the game we have today. Jordan's killer instinct, LeBron's longevity, Russell's dynasty, Magic's revolution, Bird's fire, Kobe's obsession. They don't cancel each other out. They complete each other. Together, they form the story of basketball. And if you're still desperate for an answer to the question, who's the GOAT? Maybe you're asking the wrong question. Because the real greatness of the NBA was never about crowning one king. It was about watching them all fight for the throne.